We have this typical stereotypes about CAs, right? Like they're very nerdy, very studious and hardworking kind of people, which is maybe true for most of the CAs. When people used to see me doing stand-up comedy, they used to get very surprised. They're like, hey, how a chartered accountant is doing stand-up comedy and all.
Hey, hi Vikas.
Hey, hi.
So Vikas, welcome to this
Yeah.
series called Inspiring Minds, where we have conversations with people who have dared to challenge the normal. And thank you so much for accepting my.
Hey, thank you, Jay. Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
So Vikas, please allow me to do a quick introduction. For all those thinking कि इनको कहीं तो देखा है, Vikas is a chartered accountant, but don't confuse him with your average CA. He's a CA by profession, but a stand-up comedian by passion. Born and brought up in Kolkata, graduated from top college SRCC, and worked at CRISIL. After 8 years of his corporate job, Vikas gave into his passion of spreading happiness and became a full-time stand-up comedian. Today, he is one of the most noted stand-up comedians in the South and has over 1 million views on his YouTube videos. He has done more than 300 shows across India and has shared the stage with big names like Zakir Khan, Kenny Sebastian, Kunal Kamra, and many others. Really excited to have you on the talk show, Vikas. And heartiest congratulations to you on successfully following your passion and achieving so much.
Hey, thank you so much, Jay. Thank you once more for having me. And yeah, thank you for that lovely introduction, which was sent by me to you. But no, yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay. So Vikas, let's start with the question that a lot of people want to ask you. How did a CA venture into stand-up comedy? Can you please share your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I was always interested in stand-up. Art form. Like for example, I remember when we were in school days. When I was in school days, there were like some set of programs which I was heavily influenced, mostly which were like in stand-up format. I'm not even sure if you watched that shows because that's like long back. One was that the Movers and Shakers, which was hosted by Shaker Suman, and then a few years after that, we had this Great Indian Laughter Challenge, which was more of a stand-up format. But yeah, like those shows I used to watch. I remember I used to record that. Like I used to watch it on my desktop and then record and convert it to CDs and then just watch that again and again and enact them in front of my friends or even alone in my room. So yeah, I mean, interest was always there in stand-up, and then I think so uh, because we have this pressure from family, from teachers, and from society, right? That you have to go for that stable options, which is more like you have to go into just CA or MBA or something or engineering. So I had to go for those things. Like I took CA and I started doing my CA course and then got my job. So, but that interest in stand-up was always there. And once that opportunity came, like once I was still stable in my corporate career, is when I thought, yeah, maybe I can try out stand-up. So I remember so that happened when interest was always there, but it took me you can say almost a decade for me to first time go and try stand-up, which happened when I was in job. So yeah, that's how. So interest was always there. I started watching a lot of content on YouTube. Also, we had a lot of that time. There were not much Indian comics who had put out their content on YouTube, but we had a lot of international comics. So I used to watch the content on YouTube, and I did not imagine that there can be a full-fledged career out of it, at least in this country at that time. But yeah, once I think in 2015 was the year when I was in corporate job, I started doing open mics, and from there on, it's going well. Like not well in this current year when the pandemic year, but
So because you worked in CRISIL for 8 years, so what was that trigger point that made you finally quit your job and focus on stand-up comedy as a full-time career?
yeah, see, like I said, interest was always there, and my story is not like many other artists who would say that they didn't like their day job. I loved my day job actually. I mean, I didn't even go to traditional CA's job. I remember when we did 3 years articleship. I was good. I used to enjoy that audit and taxation and all. But when that placement time came, I was little clear that I want to do something more of like financial statement analysis or research kind of work. So I went and took that kind of a role, which was in CRISIL that time. So I loved my job. I loved my work. But then stand-up was always there. That interest was always there, and that love for stand-up was little more than my love for that work. So And one point I remember, like I think it was third or fourth year of my corporate job, where things started becoming little repetitive, which is there in every job. Like I won't say, I'm not blaming this company or this job. It's in every job that you, after 3 or 4 years, you will find that there's a lot of things getting repeated, and then there is when you have to again reinvent yourself, find different things, change your role, or get something more challenging, work in the role if you're interested in that particular field. In my case, at that point of time, I got this hold of the stand-up thing. Like suddenly, I found an opportunity where there were like a lot of open mics and shows happening, and the stand-up scene was picking up in India a lot in 2015. So I started going for those open mics and shows. I think I did 3 years parallel, my job and my stand-up comedy, this open mic and everything. And at the end of third year, where it was like it was getting impacted, like my both of things were getting impacted. I was feeling like as if I'm doing the two timings and also not doing justice either to my job or stand-up. And also by that time I had built a little bit of network. I had started getting a little bit of being paid for shows. Started in corporate shows. Corporate shows is where you actually get paid. So when I was almost making like 50% of what I was getting in my CA job, I thought, yeah, this is the right time. I can quit my job. I mean, it was not at all a very easy decision, but I think so it was more like that love for stand up was too much, and I was like, I have to follow. I mean, I have to go and go do this full time. At least try this full time and see where it's going. So that was the whole idea. I mean, I quit my job to try this full time.
Right. I think because that's a very interesting way to look at it. You did a risk assessed analysis before actually making your stand-up career as a full-time job, right? Because you were already doing it part-time with your job. You assessed like, okay, I'm getting this much of income. This is of my interest. Plus financially also, I'll be stable. So which brings me to my next question. What would you advise people who would want to transition their passion to a full-time job, and how should they go about it?
Yeah, I mean, see, first you have to identify whether it's actually, I mean, you have to identify your passion. That is obviously there. And then you have to identify whether it's actually a true love or it's just an attraction. I know it sounds very cliche, but that is a fact, right? Like I've seen a lot of young people coming to stand up because they get attracted with that external beauty, that immediate gratification you get on stage, and that attention from people, that mini celebrity status and all. So people come for that, but it doesn't last long because I mean there has to be true love for that joke writing process, the crafting of joke, performance on stage, because there's a lot of hardships involved in this. Like first 3 4 years, you have to face a lot of failures with no great monetary benefits and all. So if you don't have true love, it will actually not what do you say sustain for 4 years, 5 years. So that's the point. First thing is whether when you know what is your passion, whether it's actually true love and it's not just an attraction. So that is one thing. Once you have that identified, then you have to give like 200%. Like like in my case, I did 3 years because obviously we're living in a very practical world. You can't get very emotional and all, like how they show in Bollywood movies like Marsha or Three Idiots, right? Like, oh, just quit your job overnight and just go start following your passion. You can't, like, because you have a lot of responsibilities. You have to have money. You have to sustain a livelihood. So you have to find whether that passion of mine is actually can pay me something or not. I mean, see, if there's a passion, I'm not judging anyone's passion. But for example, if somebody's passion is to do stamp collection, and I'm sure he derives the same amount of love as what I derive from my passion of stand-up comedy, but that cannot be monetized. Like his passion cannot be monetized. And today you need money for livelihood, right? Like you have to sustain a livelihood. In that case, if you have a passion like that, you follow your passion, but you cannot quit your job, right? You have to keep doing your job. But if your passion is something which can be like which can give you some payback, and so you have to assess that, like how much I can make out of this passion, and according to that, you have to decide whether you can continue in your job or not. Like I know in like a lot of Bollywood films will show you, right, you can just quit your job overnight and then start making money out of your passion, which in reality doesn't happen. When practical world is very different. Like in my case, also stand up, I did 3 years along with my job because for me because first 4 5 years not like not any passion or any startup is going to pay you any money, right? So you have to see assess like how things are going for first 3 4 years, how much I can make out of this passion. Can I actually afford to quit my day job based on the responsibilities or other commitments what I have? So once you've assessed that situation, like in my case 3 years, when I started making 50% of what I was making in my CA job, and I could see that even the future looks good. Like I have a good, strong networking now. I'm getting a steady, consistent flow of shows. So I thought, yeah, maybe this is the right time. If I quit job and put that extra time into stand up, the income what I'm getting from stand up will increase. So you have to assess like that, and then accordingly decide. And yeah, decide of quitting your job, which is a very, very big decision. It's not to be taken lightly. I know it sounds very cool to quit your day job and go and follow a passion, but I would suggest no. Like as much as possible, don't quit. It's best to have both the things. It's best to have, you can maybe take a less intensive job, less number of hours, maybe a part-time job, and follow your passion, so that you have two sources of income, and it always acts as a cushion for each other. Like certainly, if one fails, you have other to back you up. So it's always good to have that kind of diversified portfolio. Like for example, in current scenario, all the full-time artists like me are very much is suffering because of the pandemic thing. We're not having live shows and all, so our income has almost become like zero for last 1 year. But the corporate jobs are not that much getting affected. They have a job they're doing and they're getting paid. So those kind of situations make you realize that no, you need to have. It's better to have two sources of income, two sources of where you can actually sustain you can base your livelihood on. Yeah, that would be my suggestion for people who want to follow their passion after quitting the day job.
That's a very interesting point, because nowadays there we hear about so many dropout success stories where people are so carelessly saying that, just leave your job, take a break, and just follow your passion. I'm not doubting their hard work. Obviously, they've worked hard and achieved that level. But they need to understand that it is a combination of two elements. One is raw passion and raw hard work, and second is your luck. That also plays a very big factor. So it's not only just quit your job on day one and just follow your passion. It's about, along with your job, try it out as a second job, as a second part-time job. Do it along with your job and assess everything else. Like just like you did, right? You did the risk assess analysis. You saw whether it worked out or not, but you also had your financial stability at the side. So I think that's the right way to go about it.
Like internet is full of those motivational quotes, right? They will say that school dropout and how they have made it big in their life, like how they become a big somebody like a corporate king or something like that. But they don't show that, like if there's one school dropout who made it big, there are like some 99 school dropout who didn't make it big because they dropped out of school.
Yeah.
And that's the sad reality of internet. Like they'll show you only the very positive stories, but they will just want to, what do you say, like show a very rosy picture, or just school dropping out is very cool thing and people will want to do it. No, it's not. Like quitting your day job for following passion. No, you have to assess, you have to see the practicality of it, and then decide according to that.
Absolutely. I mean, the outliers are always marketed. Like the outliers who have actually dropped out and did something successfully. I think those are marketed much more than the larger audience who dropped out but who couldn't make it. So that's the sad reality. But it's glad that you could bring out the real picture out in front. So Vikas, my next question to you is: it takes a lot of guts to quit your job and take a leap of faith into such an unconventional profession for a CA. Back then, everything must have been very vague about what lied ahead. So didn't the thought scare you? And a follow-up thought on that: I have seen a lot of CAs who want to venture into unconventional paths, but they don't end up following their calling, either because they are too scared or they have been told by other people that this is something that CAs don't do. Did this happen with you too? Like people telling you, "Arey, you are a CA, अच्छी खासी जॉब तो है, कहाँ स्टैंड अप में जा रहे हो?" So how did you deal with all that?
Like your first part of the question, whether that thought like crossed my mind when I had to switch my career. Yeah, I mean that not only in past, like that happens even today, even in the current times, like because art or like stand-up comedy kind of art form is where you'll always have a lot of self-doubt and a lot of insecurities every day, because that's the nature of the art form itself, or nature of the job. Like that is part of the job. Like you will have insecurity, self-doubt, whether I've taken correct decision to come to this career. And that too, if you have quit a CA job, like a proper 8 years of corporate CA job and come, then it's like even more thinking, or lot more questions will come in my mind. So yeah, that happens. It's very, very natural, and it happened for me also. But that's what I'm saying, because the love for that stand-up was so much that you are willing to take risk. You're willing to risk a lot of things. I mean, obviously, I calculated risk, but yeah, that, like I said, the joy of from what I get from a stand-up, or joy of cracking a joke, writing a joke, and then doing it on stage, getting that gratification, that adrenaline rush on stage. Everything is so high and so gives me so much of joy and happiness that I'm willing to like forego all other things, and that is what has happened. So yeah, I mean, I had like when I was trying to quit my job, like I had to like think over. Like obviously, I told you like I did my job and see stand-up comedy for 3 years. So that means I kept on thinking for 3 years, and then once I found it financially viable to switch my career, it was like obviously first when I quit my CA job for first 1 or 2 years, stand-up comedy was giving only half what my CA job was giving. So obviously I had to do a lot of lifestyle changes. A lot of expenses had to be postponed. And then yeah, I mean, once slowly you see that your stand-up comedy started giving paying me more, and then it almost matched my CA job after 2 years of when I was doing full time. So yeah, I mean, that self doubt will always come, that whether you've taken correct decision or not. But once if you're giving 100% in what you have chosen, and then you're honest and sincere in that, I think so all the questions or all the doubts will get answered. And your second part of the question, where all CAs they also have to face, yeah, it's a very, because that's how society works, right? Like we have this very uh, typical stereotypes about CAs, right? Like they're very nerdy, very studious and hardworking kind of people, which is maybe true for most of the CAs. But they have that image, right? Like once when people used to see me doing stand-up comedy, they used to get very surprised, like, hey, how a chartered accountant is doing stand-up comedy and all. So that happens even today, even current times, it happens in shows that people get surprised. But yeah, I feel you have to find where your interest is. If your interest is in something in a field which is totally opposite to what you've been doing, it's fine. You have to find whether you're actually truly in love with that field. You will give your 200%, and you'll be happy doing what you're doing. Then I think we have to take the leap of faith, as what I had taken.
Thanks for breaking that stereotype and entering into such a field. I think more and more CAs would now be willing to get into this field.
Yeah.
So, because which brings me to my next question: what would you advise someone who wants to become a stand-up comedian?
Yeah, like I think so. I've already covered it partly. That first you have to find that it's not just not an attraction. It's a full, like it's a proper. You're truly in love with this and truly interested in it, and it's just not that a passing phase of attraction that you're getting. You're seeing other stand-up comedians or YouTube video, and you saw that for the kind of attention they're getting, that mini celebrity status they're getting, and you think, okay, I can also do this. I mean, it should not be for that. It should be for the core work, like that. You should be in love with the joke writing process, the craft, and then the performance on stage. So you should be loving that. So I think so that is very important. So if you have identified that, then yeah, I mean, you have to go with the process, which is common for everyone. I think so you have to start with open mics. So open mics is a platform where anyone can come. They have to prepare that 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes material, and they'll go and perform in front of strangers. And that's how you start your career. Like it's globally, that is the way you start. Like even the international comics, they start from open mics. So and once you and every now almost every city has an open mic. Like at least the tier one and tier two cities have open mics where you go and try out. You write a 5 minutes of something what is honest material, like what your personal experiences about something or your viewpoint on something, or it can be some topical or current affairs, and you are having a funny take on that. So something like that. You prepare 5 minutes, you go and do it on open mic. You see how the reaction is. I mean, the audience is the best. What do you say? Or teacher that time. So they will tell you. They'll give you the feedback, and based on that, you will correct, edit your material, then come back next day again, and then make it better. That's how the process begins. When open mics, you have to do it for some time, and once you get good at your craft, is when there'll be a lot of producers and a lot of senior comics who will see that you're doing well in open mics, and from there you get your first your debut show. You'll get a small spot, 5 minutes, 10 minutes spot in a proper ticketed show, and that's how your career then starts from there. And then after that, you start doing shows, And now we are living in a digital world where you have internet, YouTube, Instagram, where you can upload your work and show it to the entire world, and you'll have much larger audience than what you have in live shows. So now it's much more easier for you to showcase your work. So you do shows, you record and put it on YouTube and Instagram. People will discover you. If you're really good, they'll follow, and then your followings will increase, and you'll start doing more professions. That you have to be really great a public speaker to be a great stand-up comedian. But yeah, I mean, if you're a good public speaker, it is a very good advantage if you want to be a good stand-up comedian.
So this profession comes with a lot of criticism as well. So how would you handle the criticism and the negative comments?
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of our job, right? Like you put out your work on it on for the world to see on internet, right? And internet will always amplify your pain through those YouTube comments. So that is the part of nature of the job, right? Like people will judge you, people will give you feedback, and it'll be like and comedy is so subjective, right? Like one particular joke is one set of people will find funny, but the other set of people will not find it funny, and obviously they'll give the feedback, they'll comment that it's not nice. So, but we have to understand that this is the nature of this particular art form, that comedy is subjective, and also you have to find that what is my audience. Like if I'm writing these kind of jokes, I know this will appeal only to this section of people and not to all section of people. So obviously I have to know that fact, and obviously it takes time. You have to go through a lot of what do you say, a hardship, a lot of criticism, a lot of phases where you feel so low about yourself when you read those comments. But you're like, okay, you understand, it's not for everyone. My audience is this, they are liking my jokes, whether they like my jokes or not, and that kind of people are, whether they are increasing in numbers or not. That is what we have to keep track. So yeah, the whole nature of this job is like we put out our work on for public to see. Like it's not happening in a corporate job, right? Where you are doing your work and there's like some whole 500 people watching you what you're doing at your desk. Like for example, you're doing some Excel work and you do mistake. It's only your boss or your senior manager is going to see and scold you. It's not that 500 people going to see that you've done a mistake in your Excel file, which is unlike in our job where we know that yeah, it is like this. If I do bad joke, if I do bad performance, it will be out in the public, and I'll have to face that. So I think people who get into this job, get this art form, they know this. I mean, they know this, mean they get to know this over the course, then you become used to it. You know this part and parcel of this.
Lastly, any words of advice for our viewers?
We'll make a lot of choices in our life which won't be solely our decisions. It will be mainly because of maybe our parents or society or some other commitments in life, right? But we have to be very positive even in those decisions also. Like for example, in my case, I think so. Like if I took CS job, I did my CA job. I taken in fact I taken science in class 12, 11th. Then I had to switch my stream to commerce. Then I went to SRCC. Then I went for doing CA. And then my CA job, I found that okay, I want to do stand up. It's almost a decade after I passed out of school, where I found that okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I love doing, and I want to do this. But during that 10 years, it was not that I'm whining or I'm complaining about everything, that I'm not loving what I'm doing. Like even my articleship days, or if it was my CA crystal job, I gave my 100% of what I was doing that day. Like I was very interested in the work I was doing, and I gave my 100%. I learned during all those phases, and it's because of all those phases. The sum effect of that is that all those skills which I learned, whether it been like articleship days, that whole, you meet different kind of people, right? You go to meet the different clients and then partners. You have those review sessions. It builds your self confidence. In job also, in my crystal job, I had that whole. You take a lot of responsibilities. You meet those deadlines and all. Then you do those training sessions. So your public stage fear reduces more. So all the skills will finally come to use when I have to switch my career to stand up. So when I'm doing stand up. All this skills which I acquired in last 10 years is coming to use to me when I'm doing stand up. So when I look back, I don't regret. Like some people tell me that why do you regret that you didn't start stand up just when you passed out of college? I'm like, no, I don't regret, because now I know both sides, right? Like I know how corporate job is, and now I know how stand up, how art form is. If I was straight away into stand up, I will always be thinking, oh, what if corporate job was great? But now I've seen the corporate job, I've seen the stand up, and I know it's like it's both are same. It's just that where your love, where your interest is. So right now my interest is in stand up and I'm doing stand up. So I'm saying it's not the we may make choices, wrong choices, or maybe not the right choices, but we have to give best in those times so that when finally you identify your passion, everything can come to use, and you can give your best when you find your passion and give 100% and try to make a what do you say a happy life out of it.
That's some great advice, Vikas. Thank you so much once again for taking out time and sharing your valuable life experiences with us. I wish you all the best for your career ahead and hope to see you achieve more and more success.
Hey, thank you, Jay, for having me. All the best for your YouTube channel, for your initiative of bringing a lot of CAs and other people from different fields who have gone into this, what do you say, our not so conventional path. So thanks for sharing our story or inspire people who are watching this video. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Vikas. So, guys, who I'll put all his social media accounts in the description below, and I'll also put the link to his YouTube channel as well.